Greetings, class. This week we're focusing on recorded sound, and I thought I'd give you this PowerPoint presentation to augment the reading for the week and the lectures and everything else. It can help us build a discourse around the discussion board that we have and continue our work of building a strong general discourse around the ways in which media impact our lives and be introduced to the history and the various different elements of different media. So let's go right to the history of sound. Of course, at some point, we have to have a point of departure. So I can't go to the very beginning, the first day, and just continue on. So it'll be a super long lecture. And who wants that? Um, so we'll start with the cassette tape. So that's my promise to you. Let me go ahead and do the share screen here, and we'll go to work. Alrighty. And let's go to full screen. All right. So what came first? I decided that we start with the cassette tape. And why that is because it's the analog technology. And if you haven't seen a cassette tape before, which I will assume, I'll hazard a guess that many of you have seen a cassette in the hands of your parents or friends or people who are kind of like nostalgic about cassettes and have them and so on. There are many moving parts in a cassette mechanism. Essentially, it's the same as the reel-to-reel technology, but in a miniature configuration. And that's why it was such a revolutionary invention. And at the end of the day, this was analog recording. And, you could record any form of audio, music, and so on. And the quality of the music was pretty good for its time because we were still in the analog age and not so much in what we are now, which is the digital age. And we'll get to that. So the analog tape recorder. And this is the picture you're seeing in this slide is the actual professional form of audio recorder that was used in the studios for recording artists singing or in the broadcast studios where people were doing radio programs and so on. So what are the elements here? They're generally more expensive than digital counterparts. Each recorder has its own sound. Its sound is described as punchy, gusty, and raw. Now, some people prefer that. Many people today do not like the punchy, gusty, and raw sound. But mixing these sounds, as you can see here with the various, the needle meters here, shows you how many tracks there are here on this analog audio recorder. So the characteristic sound is derived from tape saturation. And this is magnetic technology. So magnetic recording and its media. What is, you may be thinking, what do people mean by analog? Well, analog essentially refers to something that is analogous to something else. So, you hear about analogies and so on. That's where the term was initiated for this kind of technology. So it's comparable to something else. In other words, this analog recorder is comparable to the real live version of it. Analog tape recorders have the capacity to convert electric impulses to magnetic energy. And so magnetic tape stores these magnetic remnants for later playback. And it can be played back over and over, but throughout time, the magnetic technology loses due to one of the major laws of physics, entropy. It loses its quality and its signal. So, and if it's exposed to elements, it could completely be oxidized and so on. So that's why storage of such tapes, very important part of safekeeping and archiving of music and recorded sound of other things, and then copying them onto newer versions and so forth was the normal practice in the industry. Then came digital recording. So digital audio began in the telephone industry, or it was used to digitize telephone conversations and in effect compress them so that more conversations could be handled on existing lines. And we have this fellow, Hitaro Nakajima, who in 1971 started working for Sony, and he was struck with the idea of digitizing sound when trying to improve the sound quality of FM broadcasts. Nakajima thought that by using digital technology, which had only been used in computers and long distance telephone transmission, the quality of recorded sound could be improved. Now, this was at its time. Remember, it's 1971. Um, you could say a long time ago, or it had been a minute. Uh, this was absolutely revolutionary. And many people thought, well, this is not possible. However, in 1976, the very first 16-bit digital recording in the US was made at the Santa Fe Opera on a handmade SoundStream digital tape recorder, which was developed by Dr. Thomas Stockham. So the Americans and the Japanese have a hand in giving the birth to digital technology and recording sound and later digital tape. And in 1987, the crazy 1980s is when the digital audio tape, also commonly known as DAT, recorders and players were introduced. In the tapes, similar to cassette tapes, same kind of like a mechanism, but much smaller and sturdier. And of course, this was digital recording. In 1982, before 1987, there was digital audio recording, but on something, a kind of device. The kind of medium that was used was this material that was essentially a 5-inch disc, and they called it the CD disc. And the consumer music industry just sort of blew up with the CDs. And the CDs were not cheap to produce, but very expensive to buy. And that was one of the characteristics of this kind of market. Now, to illustrate that point, take a look at this slide, and I will explain the different layers there are on a CD, because to this day, some people still use CDs to play music and record things, make copies, dump material off of streaming services and so on CDs and so forth. So the labeling surface, protective layer, reflective layer, recording layer, and polycarbonate substrate layer. So there are different layers to this to protect the CD, and the CD was very durable. In fact, if you drop the CD and it got markings on it, some dust and so on, you could take it to your sink and wash it like you would wash an ordinary plate or something. So it's sold to the public on the average of $15. And this is like, you're talking about a plastic coated little CD with a layer of aluminum. And of course, finally it was they put lacquer on it to protect it, and it would cost less than $1 to manufacture. And it to this day, it's still the maximum playing time in a CD. This is a regular CD, not the CDR we're talking about, which is data, and that's different. Is 74 minutes, and yet the prices average on the 15. Some CD collections were all the way up to $100 and so forth. It wasn't immediately a revolutionary thing. It took a while, almost a decade, for CD to replace the audio cassette. But in the 1990s, it's when it really became popular and people started having these, portable CD players with them and playing it and so on. And it was very convenient. Car manufacturers started building CD players inside the cars, and to this day, you can find cars that still have the capability of playing CDs. So, and there were other digital devices that came into the marketplace. In 1997, we've got the MP3 technology introduced, where you could put a whole bunch of songs, in fact, close to 3,000 songs for free download through mp3.com. And in the next 12 months after that, it became the #1 music site, the mp3.com, on the internet. And it had 3 million hits monthly, which by today's numbers, it seems minuscule in size, but in those days, that was a huge number. So electromagnetic recording in 1925. I wanted to sort of have this slide to make a comparison between the vinyl and the CD, the old and the new. So you could say that the birth of the audio recording for people to have at home with the phonographs and so on was in the 1925, because that's when first electronically recorded discs and orthophonic phonographs went on sale, and Western Electric Systems, which was developed at the AT&T's Bell Labs over the previous 10 years, introduced this to the market. It is now possible to record whole orchestras and symphonies and even sound motion pictures with this technology. So let's come back to digital audio technology. Digital audio has evolved tremendously. It went from a very expensive infant technology to a primary driving force in audio and audio production, communication, entertainment. Nowadays, you can download all kinds of digital audio recording software for free, essentially, and use them for basic recordings. And if you want to add bells and whistles to it, and that's where a little bit of cost comes in. But all in all, it is a very affordable form of technology, and that's why you see so many people producing their own content and good quality audio at that too. So this form of technology is considered by audio professionals to deliver the cleanest sound reproduction. Every time you reproduce audio recorded sound, it comes out exactly same as the original, as opposed to tapes. Generally considered to have a stereo sound as compared to analog. And this is where, choice and subjective taste and opinions enter the picture. Some people prefer the old analog to the new digital. Others say, no, digital is the way to go. A bit about portable digital recorders. The Boss BR8 is an 8-track digital recorder. It was one of the first to offer a built-in zip disk drive for easy storage and transfer with computers. So people in the industry, people even in the corporate world for meetings and such would use these devices to produce portably, go to different places on location, in the desert and so on, and produce very high quality sound, recorded sound. Now, this is a picture of a very portable digital recorder. The size of an entire room were the original recorders, but now they can fit in your hand. And the prices are dropping rapidly, historically speaking, of course, right? It's not like something you get for $100 is going to be $20 in 2 weeks. $100 today means, 6 months from now, it could be $72 and that sort of thing. The recording quality was once very poor. Now they are nearly the same quality as professional studios, as I said before. So, as you know, and you're probably in practice of, you can record excellent high quality audio on your iPhone or Android phones. And I hazard to guess that every single person that is watching this presentation has one of these, and perhaps most of you, if not all of you, have tried recording audio, like a lecture or your own sound for music, or just fun and games, and some people professionally using their cell phones to create recorded sound for reproduction. So Axi Animal Crackers, basic drum tracks, synthesizer, bass and guitars, vocals, final mix, all tracks with effects. This is the multi-track recording with effects and processing. So you would think, well, we're talking about recorded sound, but what does that mean? What do most Americans do with recorded sound? Well, they do music. They love music. And again, let me hazard another guess and thinking that when you listen to music, you're not really going to a radio station to listen, unless it's, sometimes satellite radio is popular with some people, but with the new generation, the digital natives, it's mostly the streaming services or it is podcasts that offer music and discussion and so on. But I thought we should take a look at what the the most favorite genres of music are in America. So you guessed it, rock, alternative, indie music combined, because they're pretty much the same thing with variations. 45% popularity. The next comes country, that sometimes is surprising for folks in California, but if you're from other places such as Texas, Alabama, and so on, country music is tops. Pop, like Taylor Swift kind of music, adult contemporary music is next at 40%, and then comes urban music, which is hip hop, R&B, etc., which is extremely popular with age groups from 13 to 25, and that's at 38%. Classical music, this might surprise you, it's still popular in America, 28% popularity with classical music. In dance, electronic music, boom, 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 kind of like that. You might hear at dance events and so on. It's very popular. Jazz and blues, which are the foundation of all of these different genres, are at 21%. And folk music, this number surprised me the first time I looked at it, because these are fairly recent statistics. How folk music has dropped in popularity and is down at the 15% level. So the most loved digital audio streaming platforms are the ones that have given the resurgence to how people listen to music, and the music industry has blossomed as a result of these streaming services. So what are the top ones? Well, to do a comparison, we're looking at this slide from the United Kingdom versus the United States. So in the United Kingdom, Spotify is the king of the hill, and Amazon Music is secondary. Where in the US, it's just the opposite. Amazon Music is 45%, Spotify 40%. Of course, Apple Music in America is going neck and neck with Spotify, and in the UK, it's down at 29%. These numbers do change, and these are the big boys, as if you will, or the big players, big boys and girls of the streaming platforms. Pandora, surprisingly, has 25% share here in this statistic, and so ultimately, when you are thinking about the history of recorded sound, and the extent to which you have a relationship with recorded sound, what may that be? Um, if you look at the slide on the left side of the screen, um, I picked a slide of two young people, college students, studying with their laptops, which is common now, and taking notes on the side, from what you're viewing, listening to, and what have you. And oftentimes, I find the young people are listening to music while studying, which is not something new, but with these digital technologies, the ability to go from song to song, from genre to genre, from place to place, and making changes to what you're listening to are so easily accessible that has made a big difference in terms of a person's relationship with recorded sound, which in this case we're really focusing on music. Now, but do you ever think about the economic impact of music industry? Because it's a big industry. It's in the multi-billions. Um, so this graph kind of just tells you the story of the streaming services and where they stand. From 2001, when this whole thing began, to 2022 is where the statistics is. And right now we're at 2024, and the numbers really haven't changed all that much. But you're looking at $26.2 billion worth of an industry. So that is the slideshow for recorded sound. I'm going to stop. And I want you to apply your critical thinking skills and think about the extent to which music has a power over the human condition. Now, scientists have studied the nostalgic power of music, right? There are certain things that give us the form of nostalgia. What do I mean by that? Say, for example, you walk by a restaurant and you smell some kind of a food that brings you back to your childhood, right? So, you were a big fan of barbecue chicken made especially, like in the South, and you smell that in the Bay Area, and it brings you back to the South. The other very powerful form of device or the medium of producing nostalgia has always been music. Music can move you uh, distances. The music can create this collapsing of uh, time and space where everything becomes timeless, and it's just you and the music and the experience that you had. And I want you to really think about this and be introspective and think about your personal relationship to music and the extent to which you like to expose yourself to the different kinds of music that they can give you that ability to have a diversified um, palette for music. So with that, I will complete the lecture, and until next time.